Hi, welcome to the EEVblog, an electronics engineering video blog of interest to anyone involved in electronics design. I'm your host, Dave Jones. Hi, it's product review time again, but no, it's not a bit of test gear this time. Instead, it's an everyday use product that I think pretty much everyone should have and everyone should carry, not just electronics people, but it's incredibly handy for electronics too. So I'm gonna let you in, tell you what I'm carrying at the moment on my key ring here, which I carry everything. It's got my car keys and house keys and everything else. What I carry on is a keychain flashlight, a keychain torch. Now, up until now, I've been carrying the ARC-AAA Premium. It's a single AAA cell. Here it is. Let's see if we can focus. Now, this is the ARC-AAA Premium. Okay, this is the one I'm not going to review because I found something much better that I'm going to carry. And let's take a look at it. It's the Fenix LD01. Here it is, LD01 AAA LED. It's got a Cree LED in it, and I think it's a beautifully well-designed product, pretty much best in its class. So let's check it out. So let's look at what you want in a keychain AAA LED flashlight. Well, what do you want? You want small, thin, lightweight, works off a single AAA cell, none of those crap little button cell garbage. That's just rubbish. Okay, you want a single AAA cell, and you want a super bright LED. Well, in this case, the my old one, the ARC-AAA Premium, it had I think it had a King Bright LED in it, and it was 10 lumens, and it's not bad. It's a really top quality keychain flashlight. I've had it on here for a couple of years now, and it hasn't even got a scratch on it. It's really hard anodized, and it works quite well. But I decided to upgrade to this Fenix LD01 thing. Now, if you compare the two, they're basically the Fenix is a bit longer, okay, and it's a bit bigger diameter, and I think it's slightly heavy. I'm not absolutely sure. I'm pretty sure it is. So it's slightly bigger, but instead of 10 lumens, you've got 85 lumens, and it's got 3 different modes. It's fully regulated as well. It's got a built-in regulator in there, just as the ARC-AAA Premium does as well, and I think it's terrific. So let's check it out, shall we? The Fenix LD01. It weighs about 14 grams. It's quite light. I think the ARC-AAA Premium's a bit lighter, but don't quote me on that. That's without the battery. Now, it's got a nice Type 3 hardened, anodized alloy casing on it. It's really quite nice. It's got these face-setted, as you can see, these face-setted things around the outside. It's got nice knurling on there as well, as you can see, because it's a twist-on, twist-off cap, and it's got a glass lens on it, and it's got a Cree XPE. It's not the XPG, it's the XPE LED at 85 lumens, which for a single AAA keychain flashlight, that's incredible. That's more than my 50 lumen Princeton Tech EOS, which I really like, and it's just really remarkable. Now, the other great thing about it is that it's fully regulated, and we'll check that out later, but it's fully regulated, and I love the design of the twist-on, twist-off cap. It's beautiful product design. It's no different to the ARC-AAA Premium. You twist it on, you know, they've been around for decades, those sort of flashlights, but it's intelligent. It's got 3 different modes. You twist it on once, okay, and it turns on to a 20 lumen mode, okay, so that's the medium range. When you first switch it on, it's on medium, which is terrific because it doesn't take a huge gulp of battery current in high mode, and usually medium mode is pretty good. 20 lumens is twice as good as the ARC-AAA I had previously, which is great, but then you twist it off, then back on quickly, and it's a low 8 lumen mode, which gets the longest battery life, but it's good enough to get you out of trouble, or just to you know, just for small uses if you don't want to drain the battery too much. And you twist it off, then on again very quickly, and there's the 85 85 lumen mode. It's incredible. There's two versions of this. There's an 80 lumen one and an 85 lumen one. They've just got a different batch Cree XPE LED in there. So this is the good 85 lumen one. Now it costs about 40. I had about $42 delivered to Australia from fenixstore.com, which I think's, you know, it's a lot of money to pay for a AAA keychain flashlight, but I think they're essential. I use this all the time for, you know, inspecting PCBs and stuff like that, looking inside gear and things like that. I use it all the time. So to have it on your keychain or in your pocket everywhere you go, I think everyone should have one, especially electronics people. Sorry, a bit of a correction there. I just checked the specs again, and it's actually 28 lumens in the standard mode. So when you first switch it on, 28 lumens, and then the low mode, 9, and then the high mode, 85. So the way the different mode mechanism works, where you switch it on, then off quickly, and then back on, and it switches the mode. But if you leave it off for more than 1.5 seconds, it will default back to the medium mode. I think that's really brilliant design. It just is. Now, obviously, I don't know the circuitry they got in there, but obviously they've got some cap in there, which when you power it on, it keeps the circuit power. When you power it off, the cap still holds a charge, and it starts a timer when you switch it off. And then if it dies within 1.5 seconds, the whole thing just switches off and it defaults back. But if you switch it back on within that 1.5 seconds, it knows, I want to switch modes, and it does. It's terrific. I love it. And it's also O-ring sealed as well, waterproof to IPX8 standard. And for you nerds out there, it comes with a pocket clip, which you can put over like that, and you can whack it in your pocket with your pocket protector. Beauty. And it also comes with a ring as well to hang on your keychain, and a spare O-ring. Beautiful. Now it says this thing is regulated, and that's really important because you want a constant brightness output as the battery voltage drops. And a typical alkaline cell which you're using this, its end of life is about 0.8 to 0.9 volts. Now the specs on this say it works from 0.9 volts to 1.7 volts. So let's check it out. Okay, now let's actually measure the performance of this torch over battery voltage and on the different ranges. Let's measure its battery power consumption. Now what I've got here, the Fluke 87 is measuring the current from the battery. The MetroHit World here is measuring the battery voltage, or the input voltage, and you'll notice that I'm actually using the voltage here is being probed directly from the input pins, so that actually eliminates any problems, any drop due to the test leads and due to the burden voltage of the meter. So let's probe it down here and let's try it out. That is on the medium range when it first switches on. Let's turn it up to 1.5 volts there, and as you can see, 1.5 volts, it draws about 300 milliamps. And let's drop the voltage down. As you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but the brightness stays pretty much constant down to about 0.7 volts input, and then it starts dropping, and it cuts out completely at about half a volt basically, which is still drawing about 20 milliamps. So down at let's say measure 1 volt input, and it's still only drawing 360 milliamps. Okay, so let's try that again for the low range, shall we? Medium, low. Okay, and let's take the battery voltage up to, well, the input voltage up to 1.5 volts. And as you can see, it draws about 77 milliamps or so at 1.5 volts. And if we drop the battery voltage down, once again, it's very well regulated. The brightness isn't changing, isn't perceptively changing. Now, at 1 volt, it's about 100 milliamps. And once again, it drops down to about 0.5 volts. It'll actually cut out. That's excellent performance. And let's try that again on the high brightness mode. Here we go. 1, low and high. So if we hold the probes there and the input voltage, take it up to 1.5 volts. There we go. It's drawn about 850 milliamps from the battery at 1.5. And if we drop it right down to say a volt, it's drawing about 800 milliamps. Wind the voltage down a bit more and the current starts to drop. And once again, it's not as well regulated as the other ones. You can see it's actually much brighter at 1.5, and then it loses a little bit of brightness when it gets down to a volt, but there's not much in it. It's still very well regulated, and the alkaline cutout voltage is about 0.8 volts, so it's still very bright. It still performs extremely well. I like it. Let's do one more test. Let's find out at what voltage it'll start up at. Now I've got it to let's turn it up to say just on a volt and see if it starts up at a volt. Yep, it does start up at a volt. Let's drop it down to the dead point of a battery, which is about 0.8 volts. Or thereabouts. Let's see if it starts. Yep, it does. It still starts up at 0.8 volts. Very impressive. Let's drop it down to say 0.67. Now we're getting really silly. Yeah, it doesn't start at all now. Whereas it would actually operate down to that voltage, but it won't start at that voltage. But that's still excellent. Well, there you go. It really does regulate pretty darn well. It's, more than you'd expect for something like this. Now, because we couldn't actually measure the LED current on the output, I can't tell you the DC to DC converter efficiency and what the actual LED's running at, but on high mode, as you saw there, it was drawing about 1.2 watts. So, you factor in conversion and efficiency of the DC to DC converter, and it's probably putting just under a watt into this, because the XP LED is rated for about 105 lumens, I think it is, the particular bin they've got in this one, but it's only rated for 85 lumens output, so they must be running at slightly under 1 watt. Okay, so let's actually check it out up close. Now, as you can see, it's got these faceted sides on it, but that doesn't stop it rolling. It does actually just roll around like that, but it can stand up like that. You can't convert it into a candle mode, like take the cap off and put it into a candle mode. That doesn't really work, but there's a couple of holes in the end here for the keychain attachment points, and let's take it apart, and you can see the O-ring there. If you can see that, it comes off, so it's got a nice O-ring which you can grease up, and the AAA battery is a really nice sort of snug fit in there, and as you can see, the end is bare aluminium, and that's important. If we take a look inside here, now, if you can see the board inside there, the gold plating on the board looks like good quality. It's hard to tell gold plating quality, because that will determine if it's going to tarnish or not, but you can see the center point in there, which contacts the positive part of the battery, and the outer ring. The way this thing works is that the ground terminal of the battery in the back here actually just conducts through, and they've got the bare aluminium on there, and when you screw it in, it makes contact with that outer gold ring when you screw it all the way in, and that turns it off and on and via the various modes. So it's a nice effective mechanism which should be pretty reliable. And let's take a look at the front end of it, the business end. There's a nicely designed deep reflector in there, and you can see the Cree XPE LED right down inside there. Now the front that's supposed to be glass on the front, a hard and anti-reflective glass. It's reflecting at the moment, but anyway, that's what it's supposed to be, and it looks very good quality overall. I like it. It's probably not quite as good as my ARC-AAA Premium. I would still rate this as a slightly better build quality, but there's not much in it, really. And the other thing to test with any keychain or any battery powered product is, does it rattle? Now you turn it off, and no, it doesn't rattle at all. The battery is a nice snug fit in there. It really is good. Okay, let's do a quick test in the garage here with the two cars. This is a standard Princeton Tech EOS headlamp. As you can see, the spot. Now, this one is my ARC-AAA Premium, as you can see, and this one is the new one on standard 20 lumens, the low mode, and now the high mode. As you can see, very impressive, much better than the Princeton Tech EOS. Certainly it's got a much cleaner beam, and you can see the cars on the side there. Really nice. All right, let's see if we can light up the lab. Now, this is the ARC-AAA Premium. As you can see, you can't see much at all. Now, the camera is set to a constant shutter and everything, so it's in manual mode, so it's not going to auto gain or anything like that. So that's the ARC-AAA, and this is the Fenix in standard mode. As you can see, it's much brighter. It's actually it's hard to pick up on camera, but it's actually very nice here. It lights up the lab really quite well, especially on the outer parts of the it's a very wide beam, which doesn't show up too well on the camera, but that's on 20 lumens mode. That's on low, so as you can see, really probably just equivalent to the ARC-AAA really. And on high mode, as you can see, it's excellent. You can pick up everything. It lights up the entire lab. Once again, the outer parts actually appear better in real life. Now, if we compare it to a Princeton Tech EOS, that's on high. As you can see, the spot is, it's sort of brighter in the spot, but the outer parts aren't nearly, the wider parts of the beam aren't nearly as good. Okay, let's light up the room with the Fenix on standard 20 lumen mode. And as you can see, it's a nice, bright, even pattern. And let's try the Princeton Tech EOS on high. As you can see, it's not as wide a beam. It's much more focused and brighter in the center, as you'd expect, because it's got a focus reflector. So there you go. For 40 bucks, I reckon this is probably the best value Keychain LED torch on the market. Really, you should pick one up. I mean, I'm not going to use my ARC-AAA Premium anymore. 10 lumens, 30, almost 30 in standard mode and 85. It's better than my Princeton Tech EOS headlamp. It's just fantastic, and the beam output is really nice and wide and consistent. It's just excellent. I guess I haven't used it for very long, so I don't know the you know, the ruggedness and the longevity of it, but the construction looks really good. So I give it a big thumbs up, and I reckon you should get one. There's one other product that I carry everywhere with me in addition to my Keychain flashlight, and I've mentioned it before several times on the blog, and you've probably guessed it. It's a Victorinox Swiss Army knife. I prefer Victorinox, not Wenger. I'm a Victorinox man, so sorry any Wenger fans out there. But anyway, I think this is absolutely essential for any electronics person. This is probably one of my most used tools. I don't have it on my keychain. I actually have it in my pocket so that I can actually take it out and use it separately. It's much more versatile that way, I think. But yeah, this is an essential bit of kit that everyone should be carrying. Now, I've actually got a collection of Swiss Army knives. Surprise, surprise, one for every purpose. But this is the one that I carry every single day, everywhere, without fail. I feel naked if I go out anywhere without this knife. And it's probably one of my most used tools, not just in electronics, but in everyday life. It's fantastic. Now, what it is the Victorinox Minichamp, and this is the one I highly recommend you get because it's tiny and it's the most versatile. Look at the size of it compared to the Fenix Lite. It's just absolutely tiny. It fits in your pocket and it's so inconspicuous. It can go anywhere. Now, the reason I like this model is because it's got pretty much everything I find I need in daily use in electronics. Now, let's take a look at some of them. A standard blade here, no problems at all. It's got the scissors, of course. The scissors are probably the most used tool on there. And I cut through some mains cable with this today, okay? I was installing some lights, cutting through mains cable. This has had years. I cut pins on PCB, component pins. I've cut in thousands of pins with this knife, and it's still sharp as the day I bought it. It's brilliant. It just never fails. Now, what else have we got? We've got a standard curved blade, which is sharper than the other one. That's fairly useful. This hook device I don't really use that much. I think it's supposed to be an orange peeler or something like that, but I don't use that too much. Now, this is it's one of those cuticle pusher things, but it's great for undoing those large screws on the back of meters, you know, that open battery compartment doors and all sorts of things. So I actually use that as a large screwdriver. Now, it's actually got a smaller flat blade screwdriver with depth gauge as well. If you can actually see, I'm not sure if you can actually see the writing on that, but there is actually a depth gauge in inches and millimeters, and that's terrific. And I find that fits a ton of stuff. So that's terrific. Now you've got a standard nail file on there as well. You can use it as a nail file. I grind down PCBs with it and all sorts of stuff. And the top end is also useful for some particular items. Now, it's also got a Phillips screwdriver, if you can see it, and I find that fits a ton of stuff. A Phillips screwdriver, and it's got a bottle cap opener, which, you know, if you're into bottles, well, that helps, but the Phillips screwdriver is worth its weight in gold. Now, one of the best items, which I use for everyday use, is the pen. It's got a little lever on the top here, and you push that, and the pen pops out. It's one of those super duper low leakage pens. I've had this for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and I almost use the pen daily, and it hasn't run out yet, and it never leaks. It's terrific. But what you do, the great design aspect of it, is you fold out the Phillips head screwdriver, and you find that it just fits beautifully, perfectly in the hand like that, and it's very natural for writing. And I've signed everything with this thing, and I whip this out. You know, if I need to sign something, I'm somewhere and I sign it, I whip this out, and it impresses people that, whoa, I've got a pen in my Swiss Army knife, but really is a big deal. Very handy. So there you go. That's the Minichamp. I highly recommend you get it. I find it's the most useful Swiss Army knife for electronics engineers. See ya. Oops, and of course, how can I forget the tweezers as well? Pretty darn handy.